From tropical caverns rumored to harbor the restless spirits of horrific abominations, to Mediterranean tunnels purported to hold both buried treasures and pathways to the underworld. Are you ready for some of the most haunted caves on Earth? Number 5. St. Martin's Sea Caves. St. Martin's Sea Caves on the coast of the village of St. Martin's on the Bay of Fundy in New Brunswick are a set of caverns just offshore where tides rise and fall every 6 hours and 13 minutes, creating constantly changing high and low tide points each day. Historically, these sandstone cavities were formed slowly over 250 million years from erosion which continues into the present. The community of St. Martin's was initially founded by soldiers from the Loyalist King's Orange Rangers in 1783 as Kawako, a town that would grow quickly into the third most productive shipbuilding locale in the Maritimes. Though, unfortunately, demand for traditional ships would start to decline through the 1870s. In 1967, the village would finally officially incorporate, and today the area's economy relies heavily on waves of tourism. Impressively, Fundy Bay boasts the highest tides in the world, and while one can freely walk the ocean floor and cave at low tide, at high tide they're completely submerged. St. Martin's Sea Caves remain open to the public, though visitors are highly advised to check tide charts as they're only accessible at low tide without scuba gear. As local legend has it, hauntings within the caves are directly connected to the St. Martin's flaming phantom ship, the spectral form of a burning wreckage that's been known to manifest off the coast every 7 years on July 1st. And many braving the area have reported disembodied voices, strange lights over the waters, orbs and mists in photographs, near constant electronic malfunctions, and the feeling of being followed, watched, or even touched by something unseen. The cavern's most commonly encountered entity is said to be that of a sailor in old-fashioned garb, sporting some nasty burns, who's been known to frequent the larger chamber. Some tell that in life, this individual escaped the infamous shipwreck and barely made it to the caverns, only to get trapped inside by the tide and ultimately drown within its depths. Number 4. Davelis Cave. Davelis Cave, also known as PENTELI Cave and located off the southwestern side of Mount Pentelicus in Penteli, Greece, is a cavern rumored to have derived its name from its utilization through the 19th century as a base for outlaw Christos Natsios, aka Davelis, who supposedly hid treasure somewhere within. Historically, the cave was discovered sometime through the 5th century BCE, after which marble from the surrounding area was farmed for the Acropolis of Athens. In ancient times, the cave itself acted as a place of worship to Pan and the nymphs, and through the Middle Ages, it was utilized by Orthodox Christian hermits associated with Gnostics that are credited in the construction of the double Byzantine church, one half of which was dedicated to Saint Spiridon and the other to Saint Nicholas. Over its many years, and on varying occasions, the cave was used as a shelter, until 1977, when the Greek government sealed its entrance, claiming a need for additional tunnel building, a cause they'd abandoned by 1983. Davelis Cave remains open to the public 24 hours a day, offering a range of tunnels, trails, and passages leading off from the main caverns. Legends of supernatural phenomena linked to this dark demesne have persisted since ancient times, with rumors surrounding its usage by various religious groups or occult practitioners, and whispers of sacrifices on site or demonic rituals that were held within. And many visiting Davelis have reported disembodied voices, glowing lights that zip about, eerie music heard emanating from thin air, and shadowy apparitions that stalk the living. Eerie etchings dot the walls, EVPs are often captured in recordings, electronics commonly malfunction, and a group of tunnels at the back of the main cavern is said to hold one path that leads to an underground pond, and another that goes straight to hell itself. Lastly, Davelis has been linked to a range of conspiracy theories, and a handful of reports detail UFOs and encounters with a being of extraterrestrial origins that lives around the base of the mountain. Number 3. The Cave of the Sibyl. Officially Antro della Sibylla, and located in the village of Monte dei Cuma in Pozzzuoli, Italy, within the Cumae archaeological site. The Cave of the Sibyl is a trapezoidal passage that stretches 131 meters parallel to its adjacent hillside. Historically, Cumae was founded around 900 BCE, and though the exact date of the cave's construction is uncertain, evidence points to it landing somewhere between the 7th and 6th centuries BCE. This particular tunnel is thought to have been home to the Cumaean Sibyl, the priestess presiding over the Apollonian oracle of Cumae, who's said to have either sang out or written her prophecies on oak leaves at the cave's mouth. Though there were countless Sibyls, the Cumaean Sibyl became especially famous among Roman legend, which told that 3 of her prophecy books were kept at the Temple of Jupiter until its destruction by fire in the 80s BCE. Cumae itself was destroyed through the 13th century by forces from Naples, and for a time the cave was lost, until in the 1600s a search was launched to find the fabled landmark, though it wouldn't be rediscovered until 1932 during the city's excavation. This historic delve remains open into the present as an archaeological site with tours readily available. Both the tunnel and Cumaean Sibyl directly were featured in a slew of poems, artwork, and literature, and before the cave's rediscovery, they were thought to be nothing more than a myth, leading many to question what else of her unbelievable story might actually be true. Although she was mortal, legend tells the Sibyl lived for about 1,000 years, a gift granted to her by Apollo in exchange for her virginity. It's said he granted her this wish, but that she later denied his love, and as a result, he let her keep her longevity, resulting in her aging into a withered old woman before perishing in the deepest part of the cavern. In Virgil's Aeneid, which chronicles the adventures of Trojan warrior Aeneas, the Sibyl's cave is described, as is an encounter with the mysterious ancient prophetess within who acted as a guide to the underworld. Many who visit the Cave of the Sibyl have reported the constant feeling of being watched, shadowy figures that dart about, and the sensation of being touched by icy hands. In its depths, the Sibyl's spirit is said to remain haunting the area to this day, and has been known to speak to those she deems worthy of prophecy. Number 2. Kaneana Cave. Kaneana Cave, also known as Makua Cave, and located at the base of a cliff outcropping along the Farrington Highway off the west coast of Oahu, is one of many sacred sites dotting Hawaii that's seemingly always been shrouded in lore and mystery. Historically, the cave formed around 150,000 years ago while still submerged underwater, and upon its discovery was called Kane after the god of creation, as the ancient Hawaiians believed it a womb from which mankind itself was birthed. In these times, entrance to the cave was strictly forbidden, and after a while, it was believed to house Nanaue, the shark man of Kaneana. Over the years, as tourism to the islands increased, the cavern became a popular hideout amongst local criminals, with some sources claiming the tunnels were even used as a body disposal site, and marks of vandalism from this period can still be seen today. In present times, there are those that still hold reverence to the site, and it's not uncommon to find offerings to Nanaue within. The caves remain open to the public, but aren't maintained or mapped, and as such, the floor can get quite slick. It's suggested those visiting always bring a buddy and avoid the tighter spaces. The most famous story surrounding these caverns tells of Nanaue, son of the shark god Kamo Ho Alii and his human wife. It's said Nanaue was born with a mouth on his back, and that his mother was instructed never to feed him meat, but that when he was 7, he accidentally ingested some, after which his mouth grew razor-sharp teeth, and when he went to bathe, his body took on the likeness of a shark. Eventually, he began hunting down villagers using the cave as a lair, until one day the tables were turned and he was hunted down and killed, leading many to fear retribution from his vengeful spirit. The ghost of Nanawe has been known to manifest as an old Hawaiian man cooking meat over a fire, which he always offers to the living. And it's said that should one accept his offer, that they will first become sleepy and that he will then take his true form before consuming them wholly. Reported throughout Kaneana are electronic malfunctions, shadowy figures, disembodied voices, and the sounds of children heard through the darkness. Lastly, chanting from what's believed to be the spirits of kahuna, or priests, has been heard emanating from thin air, and stories tell of a portal to hell somewhere within one of the lava tubes, where many have encountered a grotesque humanoid thing covered in scabs with glowing red eyes. Number 1. Chislehurst Caves. Chislehurst Caves are a set of man-made tunnels winding for 22 miles below the Chislehurst district in southeast London, England, that have served a variety of purposes over their lengthy existence, and now act as a popular tourist attraction. Historically, and partially based off the discovery of a trapped plesiosaur, it's suspected initial caverns were carved out by water around 53 million years ago. It's estimated flint mining of the area was first started in 4000 BCE, though initial documentation of mining concerning the tunnels themselves dates back to the 9th century from a Saxon charter, without further mention until the 13th century when chalk and flint were heavily farmed. Impressively, mining operations would continue on until the 19th century, and through World War I, the caves would serve as an ammunition depot, which would be abandoned in 1920. Following the war, the caverns were used to farm mushrooms, and through World War II, they served as an emergency air raid shelter. In 1940, during Germany's Blitz bombing against Britain, anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000 individuals would cramp into the tunnels nightly. Through the 1950s, the caves would be transformed into a venue for musical performances. Later, episodes of the British science fiction Doctor Who would be filmed within, and from 1985 and onward, a portion of the tunnels have been sectioned off for the LARP game Labyrinth. Chislehurst Caves remain open to this day as a historical site and educational center, offering a range of exhibits, a cafe, gift shop, guided tours, and, according to legend, a range of ghostly activity, with staff and guests reporting orbs and photographs, strange mists that float with seeming sentience, the constant feeling of being watched, and the sensation of being touched, tapped, or even shoved by unseen hands. Several tales tell of human sacrifices in the tunnels, of miners who died within, and of those who were injured in bombings and who were transported to the cavern's makeshift hospital to die. And at one point, it said the body of a priest was discovered on site, seemingly dead from fright. Reported through Chislehurst are disembodied voices and footsteps, the sounds of a dog barking when none are present, the phantom commotion of children laughing, crying, and playing, and the full-bodied apparitions of soldiers and other individuals in clothing and uniforms spanning the eras. Some have attempted to take souvenirs from the area, only to later discover the objects have disappeared inexplicably, and mannequins set throughout the cavern to display how people lived have been sighted moving on their own. Hauntings at Chislehurst are so severe they're said to have birthed an infamous game known as the Challenge, in which players would be dared to spend the night in the tunnel's depths for a small sum of money. In 1985, two men, David Duker and Chris Perry, accepted the challenge. At some point in the night, Chris began screaming wildly. It was later discovered that while he slept, something had broken and dislocated his shoulder. He was immediately rushed to the hospital, where he reported remembering nothing. Following this incident, the challenge was banned, and to date, the only man to ever make it through an entire night, a retired police officer, refused to ever return, and swore he was in the presence of something evil that was breathing down his neck the whole time. Lastly, in one chamber of the cavern known as the Haunted Pool, the skeleton of a woman was discovered in the early 1940s. Disturbingly, it's suspected she was drowned there by her husband. Her restless spirit has been known to manifest as a woman in white, capable of foretelling disaster or looming death. And some stories tell she's simply trying to protect those who enters the caves. Her spirit has been sighted above ground as well, often in nearby businesses. With its ridiculously dark and fascinating history, coupled with a long list of urban legends and ghost stories, we felt Chislehurst Caves was the best choice as our pick for the most haunted caves on Earth. Thanks for tuning in for our list of some of the most haunted caves on Earth. If you enjoyed hearing our histories and ghost stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn notifications on so you get alerts when fresh content is on the way. Throw us a like and, most importantly, share us with anyone you feel deserves a good scare. We'll see you all next time.